Welcome back. Still working on the 1855 here. I think today I'm going to tackle the transfer case. I should have everything on hand to do that. I also want to do it before I get the front wheels off, so I can, I don't know if I'll try to split it. Probably will just need to. Yeah, it's pretty tight. And really, it's not very easy to do them without splitting the frame from the rear end. So first thing I'm going to do, cap this hole off and take the air gun and just try to get some of this grease and dirt blown off so I can start disassembling without making a mess. There's an update I'm going to do to this. The breather for the transfer case is right there. Transfer case has its own oil. It only holds about a quart. And the problem with the, there's a service bulletin on it. The problem with the breather being up there is the gear teeth, as we'll see, run really close to the inside of the case. So as they bring the oil up with them, they push it into here, and when the oil's cold, it'll push it out through that breather and you'll get a leak right there. And so their solution was to just cap this hole off. And they put a check plug down in here, but I don't really need that. Then you replace the cap here that is a sealed cap, just a 3/4 inch pipe cap, with a breather cap, and that allows the crankcase or the transfer case to be able to breathe for pressure changes and temperature, but the oil doesn't go pushing out the top there. And the other reason to check these out, I don't think there's anything wrong with this one, but as you can see, there's a lube line that comes down here that goes into the pinion shaft that goes into the transmission. Well, since this case is its own reservoir, there's a seal up in the front here that keeps this oil from going into the case, and then another seal back here that keeps the oil from the transmission from coming into the case. And a common problem with these is the seal will blow out in here, and then you've got pressurized oil coming in, and it goes into the transfer case, overfills it, and it starts running over. Most guys, rather than going to this extent of work, will take this cap off and run a hose from this to some port in the rear end to return the oil back where it came from. It works. I don't think it's the most sightly of appearances to have that going back there. So I just automatically, whenever I've got them down this far and I haven't been into them before, or tear the transfer case apart, replace that seal, the other seals, just make sure everything's good in there, and give it some fresh oil. So that'll also be something that's got to go on, is drain the oil. Got to drop the the drive shaft. There's locking tabs I got to knock over, and then bolts. And I'll take both ends off because I will replace the seal on the pinion shaft in the front axle. Just get the shaft out of my way for now, and then we can keep going from there. There's the adjuster bolt for the over and under, and I think then the speedometer comes through here. There's a plate to protect it. I can get this front bolt off, but I don't know if I can probably loosen that up enough. Get that speedo cable out of there. Yeah, short little bolt, just enough to hold that shield on that one. Okay, got the speedometer cable disconnected. Take these U-joints off next. I want to do the rear bolts. There's a nut down in here you have to get to. If you take this side off, the U-joint's in your way. This is another nice part about doing it with the wheels still on, because you can put the tractor in gear, set the brake, and keep the shaft from turning on you. It's only going to turn so far before it wants to try to move the tractor anyways with the wheels down. Oh yeah, she's trying to move the tractor. Let's set the brake. There it goes. let's go ahead and pull the plug on the transfer case and see what comes out. Hopefully it's just, you know, nice looking oil. And then I'll go around to the other side and get the other 2 bolts out for the U-joint. Well, it's oil. It's gear lube. 80W90 is what I always use. It smells older. I don't think it was especially high, but at least there was oil in it. Magnetic drain plug. Ain't covered with crap. Just sludge. Not seeing any metal filings in there, but I don't think a quart came out of there by any means either. Well, let's go around and do the other side. It's just knocking the tabs loose on this front part of the drive shaft, and don't know how well you can see it, but there's just a little looseness in that shaft. There's a shim pack in there that I can take a shim out of, and so that'll be it for another video. But I'll be disassembling this whole axle to reseal it and just check everything out, repack it with grease and clean it up, fresh oil, all that good stuff. This back yoke, you can probably get a socket on. The front one, the bolts are close enough to the yoke. I got to use the open end on the end wrench. There, it should come off. The U-joint or drive shaft is out. U-joints seem to be in pretty good shape, and I find that, you know, if you grease them pretty regular, I try to do mine every 10 hours. They hold up really good and generally don't need replaced. The caps have these, I put the bolts and this retainers on here so I don't lose them. And they have these notches for positive engagement. And then I even have, you see how both sides are turning. When I'm only turning one, they have a wire that goes across when they're new, or a strap. That just keeps the caps on. Makes it nice for installation and storage. Now someone has replaced the clevis pin with a 3/8 bolt. Guess I got the job done. Pull that out so I can disconnect. And there's a nut in here we're going to do next. I want to put it in 4-wheel drive so the transfer case is locked to the rear end. There's a cotter pin in there that got to get out before I can take the nut out. Pick in there and a little bit with a screwdriver and get the crud out of there. Get that bolt off. Next to come off is this seal housing. You might be wondering why there's a grease zerk on the output shaft. Wonder if the grease could even get in there. There's supposed to be a gap. There's 2 seals. The inner seal keeps the oil in the transfer case. I would say it's pretty worn. Probably where he's losing his oil at. The outer one is a dirt seal. And there's nothing to lubricate that seal unless you put some grease in here every now and then. That fills a gap between the two. They might have done it because, yeah, there is a groove worn in the shaft where the seal rides. So that might have been part of their replacement idea, was to get the seal in a new spot. That wasn't. But honestly, There's plenty of not grooved stuff out here. So that was not their reason. We will be careful about where we place that, because that outer one, it really cut in there. And the inner one's got a little bit. But like I say, if we place these seals right, put this inner one just a little farther out, and get the outer one out to the edge where it should be, I'll leave a gap for the grease, and get the inner one off from that little groove that's cut into it, and the outer one will be totally missing that groove. So, short story, or the moral of the story, put a little grease in that every now and then, especially if your tractor sees a lot of road time, because that shaft is really spinning. Wear that grease out of there, or if you're in dusty, dirty conditions, I grease it every 10 hours along with the U-joints basically daily. It might be crazy, but I am going to try getting this transfer case apart without splitting the tractor. Worst thing I'll do is have to end up splitting the tractor. Later tractors, the whites, they did a little bit more of a cutout here and reinforced it with a rib. And that little extra gave enough room to where you could get the transfer case apart easily without splitting the tractor. I've seen a few tractors where guys have drilled and knocked out chunks of cast iron so they could get that farther out without having to split the tractor. These bolts are super tight from the factory. Boy, it takes one heck of a breaker bar and a long pipe for me to get them break free. Long story short, if I can get that apart without splitting the tractor, I think I'll be farther ahead. So I'm going to give it a crack. There's a shim stack with this, so you want to keep it with it. When we reassemble, we'll check that stuff, but don't need to lose any. This seal actually looks pretty, it's hard. It's not too bad. I'd say this baby's been apart before. That don't look like an old seal. Got some moisture in it. The speedo cable didn't want to come out the easiest. There's the lube line mentioning earlier. All I gotta do is get the rest of the bolts off the perimeter of the cover and then try to see if I can work any kind of magic. The last one I worked on a friend's 1655. I was able to get that apart without splitting it. It also didn't have this speedometer stub sticking out of the shaft there, so that might be a deal breaker. There's a guide dowel pin right here. That's what this ear is for. So that's what usually keeps it from sliding away super easy. There's also a gasket between the two halves. There we go. I think there's one down towards the bottom too, if I remember right. Plus there's the shift rail. I've got it shifted down, which is disengaged. That pushes the rail back farther, so it ain't engaged in the cover quite as much. There. Yep, there's the other alignment pin down here. There's the shift rail. That don't go under very far. There. Now I think what I've got to do is from underneath. Now, if I remember right. Oh, my battery's running low. Pull that out. How did I do this? And maybe it won't work on this tractor. I don't think it's gonna happen. That's just not happening. Close, but no cigar. I've just taken out the bolts for the isolator brackets that hold dash to the plate there. It's bolted to the front frame. Hoping I can get it slide forward far enough with that rear tank support bolted down in there. Oh, a couple of linkages and springs hooked to it, but they should be able to come out with it. We will find out. Here's my socket. It is, I think I said 3/4 earlier, it is 11/16. 11/16 Apex 7122D. But it's to the head's tapered down so it can get into there, because it's a fit some of these areas. We'll see if the impact can get them to bust loose. Whoa, check that out. Of course, it's probably been apart before. Them didn't look like old seals in there. But when they tighten them from the factory, they tighten them good. Now the frame, there's a dowel pin on each side that lines the frame up and everything. What I do is, as I pull them out, I replace them with longer 3/4 inch bolts, which and then that way I've got something to slide it apart on and keep it lined up. You take 4 on each side, you take 8 3/4 inch bolts. It should hold up good enough for what I'm going to do. And I'll probably support it some with the hoist. It's still going to want to sag a little bit there, but helps keep everything lined up. Keeps anything from tipping. Let's see if I can get some more apart. Now, let's try this top one. That made the difference. I think I'm ready to try this. Got the front frame supported, the rear frame supported, the bolts in the holes. Only really need to get a hole ahead a couple inches to get that apart. So let's see if I got enough stuff disconnected where it'll move. Got her to come a little bit. See, there's a gap there. A little bit on this side, a little bit on that side. I'd have to split that there. these cooler lines, the clamp there, starting to pinch. I think I'll pull that off so I can get it ahead just a little more. Might as well have some room to work. Yep, we got her split about yay much. A couple inches. But I think that's all we need. Let's find out. Ta-da! Yep. Oh, okay, got the half off. Got to get the gear off before we can take the... This is one of those spirally type of snap rings. Gotta find the end of it. That might be it. That might not be it. I think that's it. Of course, it's at the bottom where I can't see it too well. Might have to come at that from underneath. Come on. There it goes. Somewhat. There. Whew. I will say, sometimes you run into this style of snap ring. Sometimes you run into the more traditional style where you spread it open with a pair of snap ring pliers. But once in a while, I think I've worked on one in my time, you gotta watch, because the way these angle of these teeth are cut, they're helical. Get past that snap ring groove. Well, anyways, they're helical, and so when you're going forward, the cut of the gear pushes it back against the case, which is fine. That's what it's designed to do. Snap ring, if you're in reverse, well, it'll push against that snap ring. So if you're in a really hard pull going in reverse, you can pop that snap ring off, and then the gear comes up and rubs against the front cover, and it starts grinding into it. And if you remember from earlier, that lube line comes in right here, goes down, goes into there. Well, this gear, these teeth start rubbing against that where the oil goes through the casting and cuts a hole through, and that'll fill your transfer case up in a hurry. So, tip of the day, you don't have to take it out of four-wheel drive every time you back up, but if you're really pulling something, whether you got stuck or something like that, if you got to pull backwards, take it out of four-wheel drive, or find a way to pull forwards so you don't pop that snap ring off. I should put the oil thing back under there because I think some oil might come out from the rear end once this pulls out of that seal, if I remember right. I had to give a pry bar to get it to encourage it to come off the rest of the way. Oh yeah, this style, the seal is in the back side of the case against the pinion shaft in 1600, 1650, 1655. The seal is in the back half of the case, but it seals against this gear, and then there's an O-ring on the inside. Don't know why that was such a bugger. Yep, there's that seal. So now I just got to take that bolt and that bolt out, and the rear half of the transfer case should separate from the rear end. And since I haven't drained the rear end, there's going to be some oil, so maybe I'll drain the rear end so there won't be oil. There's a bolt someone must have dropped, who knows how long ago, that's wedged right in here. Come on. There. I'm gonna dig through my stash and make sure I've got all the seals and get whatever I don't have ordered. There's a little seal in here that shaft goes through. I think I'll see if I can't find some speedy sleeve to go over that area. Boy, it's rough. Nothing else. I guess I could have someone weld it up and turn it back down. We'll see if we can go the speedy sleeve route. Bearings look good. Races look good. Overall, it's in good shape. Basically just reseal it. Check the end play and all that stuff and set it up. Do the conversion, move or take that breather off and put her back together. Well, who's got two thumbs? There's one of them. And has a transfer case overhaul package on the shelf. In case you're wondering, I don't know if this is a good number anymore, but there it is. Got the O-rings, gaskets, there's a seal, another seal in there. That looks like the dirt seal for the output. And it even has a little tiny air cleaner for the filter, or for the breather, but since we're going to change that, we won't use that part. I'll save it for something else. I like those boxes. Looks like it should have everything I need. Awesome. Might as well start cleaning stuff up so we can go the other way. Did a little measuring. This shaft's 1.75. Found a speedy sleeve, a 99175. That's 3/4 of an inch wide. That will cover up those gouges. I think I can put the dirt one out here anyways, where it needs to be. So there's room for the grease in between. That'll cover these up so it doesn't matter where the oil one lands. So I should be good there. Then I was noticing this seal here is hard. It's got a split in it, which that split might have happened when I was taking it apart. It wasn't much longer. And that seal is hard. Wasn't gonna be much longer and it was gonna start leaking on me, so I'm glad I'm doing it. You know, when you start thinking about how old some of these parts and seals and stuff are, they've earned their keep. All right, cleanup time. I'll double check some seals, make sure this kit's got the right stuff. This lever's pretty straightforward. There's a nut and the lock washer, but then the bolt that goes through it does thread in. So you gotta take the nut off, then thread the bolt out. And then there's a, well look, I've lost it already. We knew that, didn't we? Here we go. Half moon key goes in the shaft. Don't lose that. Then the shaft can go through. You need to do that to change this seal right here. Right there. Guess I should have cleaned it up a skosh before I tried driving it in. We'll drive it back and clean it up. There. There's a detent ball for this. It's on top of the shaft. The screw hole is for you to stick a punch in and hold the spring and the ball up while you push the shift rail in. There. And the ball's down in the bottom of the hole there. Spring's trying to come out, but it can't come out until this is out. There's a shift rail and the detents, notches. Guess I just need to knock out some seals. I'll have to take that screw out and get the ball and the spring out of there so I don't lose them. And then clean, clean, clean. It's just not gonna happen. Okay.